so awesome to have you all here. Specifically, this has been a combining power and efforts from our literacy coordinator alongside our YA, our children's room, and just to hear the volume of people getting engaged in these conversations with the multicultural classroom speaker series. This literacy series has allowed us to also be introduced to Roberto Germán, who has his awesome book. Obviously, Roberto Germán, Blue Ink Tears, is so important to us because it's only a piece of all the struggles and stories and the beauty that comes out of it. I know Roberto's been writing poetry since he was in 7th grade. He's a product of our city, and it's important that you guys can see how far your dreams can go if you put ink to paper. So what better way than introduce you to him here at the Lawrence Public Library. So Roberto Germán, please. Germán, please.
Thank you.
Round of applause, y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me. Good evening, everybody. Good evening. Saludos. All right. Y'all were real chatty before we got started. Now you got quiet. I'm going to have to put y'all on the spot. Bueno, un placer estar con ustedes en esta noche. My name's Roberto Germán. And I'm going to share a little bit of my work, of my writing, of my poetry. Voy a compartir mi poesía con ustedes. And I also have some people that are going to accompany me. Tengo unas personas que me están acompañando esta noche. So hopefully this will be engaging for you. Yo espero que se puedan conectar con el contenido de mi libro, Blue Ink Tears, que representa mi vida. This really represents my life in the past 20 years. This is a journey. Esto es mi jornada los últimos 20 años. And so, no va a tener tiempo. I'm not going to have the time to share everything. No va a tener tiempo a compartirlo todo. Pero, there are certain things, hay ciertas cosas que quiero compartir con ustedes en esta noche. So we're going to go ahead and get right into it. We're going to go ahead and get started. And I'm going to do it a little different today. Hoy lo hace un poquito diferente. I'm going to present a few poems. Voy a presentar 2, 3 poemas. Después, si tienen preguntas, podemos hablar 2, 3 más. Preguntas, comentarios, 2, 3 más. Así lo hacemos. ¿Está bien? All right. So I'll present. I'll do a few poems. Stop. Questions and answers, comments. We'll do a few more. Questions and answers, comments. And then we'll just keep that rhythm. Little bit different than my typical presentations, but hopefully still effective. All right. So we'll start with this first piece titled, vamos a comenzar con café con leche. Okay. We'll start with café con leche. I know there's a lot of coffee drinkers in here. Hay mucha gente aquí que beben café. And here we go. The taste of café con leche, blend of coffee and milk, island, fresh beans imported to the States, mixed to form one from two, old traditions held firm, introduced to customs anew, azúcar, melts into the coffee and milk, a compromise of sweet flavor, the deliciousness of both sides. But the café cannot assimilate to the point of only being leche. It loses its essence, sabor. Bebiendo despacio, heritage in each drink, de café con leche. And I know we said, thank you. And I know I said we'll do 2 or 3 and then pause, but this is a good conversation starter. So, sé que iba a leer 2 o 3 y después responder a preguntas, pero quiero comenzar ahora. What comes up for you? What questions come up? Cuando escuchas estas palabras, ¿qué preguntas tienen? Sí, allá. Name. Naomi. Sí, muy bien. Bueno, yo escribí esto pensando, I wrote this pensando no solamente en la cultura hispana. I wrote this not just thinking about Hispanic culture. I wrote this thinking about the blend, the mix. Yo lo escribí pensando en la mezcla de culturas. Cultura americana, nuestra cultura, sea los dominicanos, puertorriqueños, right, los hispanos. Y en la mezcla hay una belleza, pero algunas veces también se puede perder su esencia. Y eso, para mí eso era importante, reflejar, escribir, compartir esas palabras, porque he visto que hay personas, I've seen people who want to be American so bad. He visto personas que quieren ser tan americanos que se olvidan de su cultura, de sus orígenes. Y eso lo veo mal, aunque sí, yo no creo que haya problema uno adaptarse a la cultura americana. Estamos aquí, so debemos. Pero es una cosa uno adaptarse y tener esa mezcla y otra cosa cuando uno se pierde. You know, it's one thing for you to adapt yourself and like blend and mix, and it's another thing for you to lose yourself in the process of trying to be something that, you know, something that you think you should be. Gracias por la pregunta. Any other questions that come to mind for y'all, comments? Can anybody relate to that poem? Can anybody relate to that notion? Yeah, algunos sí. Muy bien. Estoy preguntando si hay algunas personas que se pueden relacionar, que pueden entender lo que estoy compartiendo ahí. Quizá han tenido esa experiencia de tratar de adaptarse a esta cultura y mantener su cultura dominicana. Quizá algunos lo entienden. Quiero seguir en esa línea con lengua. Y dice, mi batalla con el lenguaje es nothing short of complicado. Soy un poquito de todo, pero completamente nada. Dominican made, American raised, a remix of Spanish and English, the pulse of la tambora and an upright organ. My words are inglés sin barreras. My español is not exactly un poema. I forget the femenino, it's always un problema. I lean on my instincts, sometimes confused. I look for the right punctuation. Tia Susana says, search round yonder. That's the English of Samaná. I'm tired from the mental struggle, constant doubt, one way in my mind, another out my mouth. Saboreando limoncillos en Jaina, or eating PBJ with my boys when we talk, it's a serving of avocados and concón. Sancocho's heartiness on my lengua. Mix of meat and roots, a stew that feeds my español. The sazón makes my adjectives tasty, cause that's my tongue, mi estilo de hablar. A veces refleja la calle, but it always represents my heart. Thank you. Yeah. Y'all seemingly like this one better than Café con Leche. If I was measuring that by your applause. So lengua lengua. Maybe that's something that you could relate to. Quizás es algo que entiende lo que estoy compartiendo con eso. What questions come from mind? ¿Qué preguntas tienen cuando escuchan a mi poema Lengua? Gusto en verte de nuevo.
La temática de tu poesía parece que tú tratas de unificar culturas con imágenes como son, vamos a decir, alimentos, café, leche, pero hablas de aguacate, hablas de sancocho, hablas de coco. Parece que tu intención es poder unificar ambas culturas en tu poemario. ¿Es eso cierto?
Bueno, no voy a decir que es mi intención, pero escribo en la manera en la cual hablo. Yo pienso primeramente en inglés, porque yo soy de aquí, yo soy de Lawrence. Pero los padres míos son de la República Dominicana. Mi papá era de Jaina, mi mamá de Samaná, entonces también hablo español, pero pienso en inglés. Y trato de mantener los dos. Hay muchas personas como yo, nacido aquí en los Estados Unidos, que se usa el término Spanglish. O sea que hablamos los dos. There are a lot of people like me, born and raised in the United States, that use Spanglish. It's a mix. Y eso lo que estoy representando aquí en lengua, que entiendo y algunas veces me han criticado porque mi español no es fino. Pero yo diré que eso no me hace menos dominicano, que es mi cultura. Eso es simplemente mi manera de hablar. Así como algunas personas que viven aquí, quizás no hablan el inglés, no dominan el inglés como yo lo domino. Entonces, quería compartir eso porque sé que hay muchas personas que entienden esa experiencia de quizás estar procesando algo y no les sale en la manera que debe de salir. Por ejemplo, hasta ayer cuando estuvimos allá en la entrevista, hay algunas veces que alguien me pregunta algo. Yesterday I was doing an interview and they were asking me to do some stuff, put me on the spot, translate. And I'm like, great. Sometimes I might know the correct word and it just doesn't come out that way. Especially if I have to, if I'm feeling pressured, si siento una presión y, están esperando que yo les responda de una, quizá no va a salir en la manera correcta. Aunque si me dan tiempo, esa palabra, lo conozco muy bien. I might know the word, but the way my brain works, it might not always come out that way. Just like, así como cuando hablo con personas que dominan el español y no dominan el inglés, algunas veces saben que quieren, qué es lo que quieren comunicar, y en inglés no les sale perfectamente, pero uno entiende lo que quieren comunicar. Quería representar eso. O sea, no sé si batalla es la palabra que quiero usar, pero algunas veces se siente así. En mi mente se siente así. Gracias por la pregunta. Aquí después Jennifer. There you go, coming with the big words. Did you say what role does it play in my personality? Yeah, that's a great question. I would say you know, I represent that. I am intersectional. Like I can be speaking Spanish in one moment, then speaking English. Code switching, right? You know, like I know how to code switch real well. Like I'm from Lawrence, but I went to prep school. I went to St. George's in Newport, Rhode Island. Then I went to Central Catholic. Then I went to Merrimack College. Like I know how to code switch. I could speak the King's English real well if I have to. And I think it's good and important to be able to function in different environments. Es importante poder manejarse en diferentes ambientes, entender las personas con lo cual uno está comunicando. Por ejemplo, cuando estoy comunicando con mis amistades, Lamar, Cuba, Jackson, Troy, no estoy hablando con ellos en una manera formal. I'm not, we're not speaking real formal when we're together because of this environment and we understand our audience amongst ourselves. But when I'm in other spaces, then I'll adapt. And that doesn't mean I'm not myself, all right? Yo me puedo adaptar a diferentes ambientes, pero todavía me presento como Roberto Germán in all of my fullness, en todo lo que soy, Roberto Germán. Like it or leave it. Thank you. Great question. Jennifer.
Soy un poquito de todo, pero completamente nada. Two of the most relatable lines, I think, in this poem. And I think it's something that a lot of us can relate to. Not Dominican enough to be Dominican, not American enough to be American. Not eloquent enough in Spanish for that to be my first language, but also have my little accent and not, in English. So
Right.
Just that constant struggle of trying to find your place, trying to find that identity that defines who you are, I guess, or trying to articulate what that is, I guess.
Yeah.
Really brought me back to that.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. ¿Qué te digo? Es cierto. Y en mi contenido siempre trato de ser real. Y algunas veces no me siento suficiente americano ni suficiente dominicano. Y puedo decir muchas cosas de eso, pero para mí cuando pienso en mi identidad, lo más importante para mí es que soy hijo de Dios, creado en su imagen y me presento así primeramente, hombre de fe. Que sigo los pasos del Señor, hombre de fe, bien. Que soy americano, soy dominicano, definitivamente, pero algunas veces en ciertos espacios quizá la gente no te ven así, no te aceptan así, pero he aprendido a no perder tiempo en lo que piensan otra gente. I've learned not to, I show up in my full self as made in God's image, beautifully and wonderfully made, Son of the Most High, walking in the ways of the Lord. That's the most important thing to me. For some people, not Dominican enough, not American, whatever. But I've learned not to waste too much time thinking about what other people think of me. I don't got time for that. As long as I understand how the Lord sees me, that reinforces how I see myself. And so I just show up in my purpose and power. Yo me presento en mi propósito, en mi poder, sabiendo quién me está guiando. Y sigo así, sigo caminando. Pero sí, esa línea real, que algunas veces uno se puede sentir así. Y la gente people have a way, la gente tiene una manera de, y no siempre es que, ¿cómo te digo? Que quizás algunas veces la gente no lo hacen de maldad. Sometimes people, they're not doing things on purpose, but they can have a way of really hurting you with their words. La gente puede tener una manera de lastimar a uno con sus palabras, even if they're not aware of it, aunque quizá ellos ni lo sepan. Great question. Okay, so I'm gonna do one more piece connected to identity, culture before we transition a little bit. Voy a compartir otro más y después vamos a hacer una transición. So, this is going to be short and sweet. Some of you may have heard this one before. It's one of my favorites. I think you'll like it. Bien. Yo soy un plátano, verde y fuerte. I stand tall and proudly represent mi gente. My skin is thick, for sure, seguro. And I'm stronger than other crops porque soy el maduro. Right for the picking, 4 por peso, sounds nice with some chicken. Finger licking good. All right. That was Yo soy un plátano. Real, it was a playful one, you know. Yo soy un plátano verde y fuerte. I stand tall and proudly represent mi gente. My skin is thick, for sure, seguro. And I'm stronger than other crops porque soy el maduro. Right for the picking, 4 por peso, sometimes with some chicken. So that one, can you press pause, please? So with that piece, con Yo soy un plátano, y se conecta a lo que usted estaba diciendo. Quería escribir algo. I wanted to write something that for me represents Dominican culture. Quería escribir algo que representa cultura dominicana. Plátano is an easy one, right? And so I just think about, first of all, I love plátanos, you know. Me encantan los plátanos. So, like, it was easy for me to write because I eat plátanos all the time. Muy fácil para yo escribir porque siempre estoy comiendo plátano. But, you know, there's something about like the notion of plátano power. You know, there's something about the plátano and the Dominican people that like, just there's joy, this energy. Hay algo del plátano y el pueblo dominicano, el gozo de energía that I'm like, I gotta capture this. And so, con eso me inspiró a escribir Yo soy un plátano. That inspired me to write Yo soy un plátano. Now, I want to transition a little bit. And I want to talk about some justice themes. Quiero hablar de la justicia un poquito. Y para ayudarme con esto, invité a Michael Cuba Reyes. Él va a compartir 2 y después yo voy a compartir y después vamos a hablar un poquito. So, Cuba, if you will.
All right. Let's see. Good? All right. All right. Good. Test T. 1, 2, 1, 2.
Yeah.
Good. All right. All right. Good.
Grab that good water.
Oh, you got the good stuff? All right. All right. Buenas tardes. Good evening.
Yeah.
Any Cubans in the building?
No, sorry, what was that?
No? No? Cubans? Dominicans?
Over here.
All right.
Yeah.
Puerto Ricans?
Yeah.
I guess y'all went to Springfield then, because I was a lot here back in the 90s. But yes, I'm Cuban, soy cubano. Grew up in Lawrence, originally from New Jersey. Story of my life, every time I was in Lawrence, whether the party or library or school, it was a lot of Dominicans, Puerto Ricans, and probably 2 Cubans. My parents, they left Cuba in the early 80s. And ever since then, they never came back because they were leaving communists. They were leaving the dictatorship. So I want to write a couple of poems. I wrote a couple of poems down. It's dedicated to pretty much the Cuban struggle and the things that my parents and basically everybody in Cuba went through. It's called 90 Miles. First generation you was born. The fam came from the largest island in the island, but the island's been the forgotten one. 90 miles away from 90 miles away from the States, Florida to be exact, where the Cubans took over Miami. That's where the party's at. You could catch on 8th Street playing dominoes, puffing cigars, playing a superstar, 90 miles so close, but yet so far. July 11th was the spark, the date that brought power to the people. See, the government keep playing around with us, you're gonna catch another sequel. The reach of freedom is almost at its peak. If Cuba's in the streets, so are we. No longer we screaming patria o muerte. We want to live. We screaming patria vida. We want to live. We screaming libertad. We want to live. We screaming no more Canel. We want to live. We screaming we want democracy. We want to live. 90 miles. 90 miles where Cubans risk it all for a new life. Risk their life, family, drowning sharks, infest the water. 90 miles just to survive. Side note, Castro shade, whenever they ran with the plug, killed Che, or some Tony Manolo Scarface tip. Left filthy rich, false prophet, pathetic inspiration. See, I could tell you the rest, but you're not ready for the conversation. Oh yeah, and Google's also your friend. After 60 plus years of a system being misleading, 90 miles away from my grandmother's tombstone. Hopefully when I see her, Cuba could see freedom. Thank you. You know, I was born in Jersey, and the part of Jersey that I grew up was predominantly Cuban. So when I moved to Massachusetts, I moved to Lawrence, and it was just a cell shock that I couldn't really find anybody over here. So it's like a weird, I guess I want to say identity crisis. I guess a perfect example I could give you, imagine you being Dominican, and then you go all the way to California, and you can't find like no Dominican culture, and then you're trying to find other people, and they don't know nothing about Sergio Vargas or Johnny Ventura or Wilfrido Vargas, and then you're stuck hearing Selena or Ana Gabriel and Tigres del Norte, and it's like you try to get to slip to your culture, and it's hard and difficult to get it. And the closest you get, if you go to like the Heights or even Lawrence, I get that. You know, I guess the closest I could feel being Cuban is being in Miami and even Jersey. So it's just a little bit of a struggle, but it's dope because even being in Lawrence, you know, you got such a great culture amongst Dominicans, and it's very similar, but it's also kind of different. So that's just the kind of trials and tribulation you got to go through. The next piece I want to do here is called 7-Eleven. Welcome to 7-Eleven, the wonderful store we call 7-Eleven. We have 6 aisles of wonderful endless supply. I'll be your tour manager. I'll be your store manager, so come along for this tour guide. Aisle number 1, empty foods, empty medicine, empty everything. We should have shipping coming through, but the tourists and the powers that be took everything. Aisle 2, we have hopelessness, helplessness, the system that has some people feeling less than. Aisle number 3, on one side we have Luis Manuel Otero. He's Times Magazine's most influential people. On the other side we have Michael Osobo. He's a Grammy Award-winning rapper. We should be enjoying their accolades and recognition, but instead they're being tortured, doing years in prison. Aisle 4, we're going to ignore aisle 4. That's the aisle of death, whether it's suicide, baby mortality, firing squad, the government, medical negligence. The people been speaking out, but unfortunately some are far too hesitant. Aisle 5 is the aisle full of lies, whether it's hospital, education, standard of living. Equality. Everything they told you was false, fake news, alternative facts. You want to hear the truth? Please listen to the people that lived it. Aisle 6, we have the people who had enough, the people who are sick and tired of being sick and tired. The powers that be fears of them are really for a change. We would expose you for all your lies. And some of us might not even make it home again, but it's okay, because I know a change will come someday. Hope you enjoy all the things we're looking for, my friend. Hopefully, I will have to make another aisle in the store. And no, don't ever come again. Thank you. 7-Eleven. I want to break this down for y'all. A lot of people don't know what happened with 7-Eleven. It's a double entendre I did with the store. And 7-Eleven is July 11th. Something happened on July 11, 2021. That was the first time that the people of Cuba protested against the government. They were tired of the oppression, the dictatorship, all the abuse they were going through. Ever since they protest, we have multiple manifestations, but that was the first thing that took place since 1994. Since then, there's been over 1,500 political prisoners in jail, murdered, or being tortured as we speak. I mentioned two individuals here, which is Luis Manuel and Michael Osobo. Luis Manuel, he's an activist who made up a group named San Isidros, which is a whole bunch of college kids that got together to just speak against the government. He's doing 10 years. And Michael Osobo, he's a rapper. He won a Grammy a couple of years ago for the song Patria y Vida, which is the shirt I'm wearing right now. It's been the new hashtag for the Cuban community. At this moment, he's doing 7 years in jail over this song. He did the song in secrecy, and with a group of guys, everybody escaped the country except for him. He was the only one that wasn't able to escape, and he's doing 8 years in prison over this song. So that is his story. And we're still fighting against the cause. We're still trying to make a change of mental people. We're dealing with a lot of people behind the scenes that are working with us. But that's been the people's story. So with 7-Eleven, it's July 11, the store. And I mentioned 6 hours. 6 hours represents for each decade that the country has been under dictatorship. So it's been over 60 years. At this moment, my parents can't go to Cuba. I can't go to Cuba. My grandfather left with us at this moment. He's not feeling too well right now, so he probably might even make it alive to see Cuba. But that's been the struggle of the Cuban struggle. Any questions? No? Sure.
I have a personal question.
Go ahead.
Why can't you go back to Cuba?
Well, what happened with that, with my parents spoke, well, I'll start with my grandfather. He spoke against the government. So he went to jail and he was tortured for 2 years as he went over there. It's a real complex story behind that, but my mother, she just had enough and said, I don't want to be in this country anymore. So during that time, the government was really strict amongst their people, said you're either with us or you're against us. If you leave, you can't come back. So she left over 40 plus years ago, and she hasn't came back there. Same thing with my father. So.
And you just don't go back?
No, I think part of it, I'm in an interesting situation because I was born here, but with me, because I've been doing a lot of activism and I want to honor my parents, I don't want to go there yet until things change. So that's been the struggle.
I was there this year for my 30th birthday just because I've just been studying the Caribbean culture more, and one of the islands that I had been to was Cuba.
Mm-hmm.
And I went there, and prior to visiting, I had already been following and speaking to some political activists in Cuba, so I had a good idea already of what the Cuban people were going through.
Mm-hmm.
And as kind of like an experiment, while I was out there, I posted on my Facebook, Free Cuba, and it was immediately taken down, and I couldn't post anything on social media until I came back home.
Yeah, that's what it is. They banned a lot of things. When the manifestation happened in 2021, a lot of people was recording online, and the government dictates the internet. So all those things were going online, the government shut that down. And it wasn't until probably 5 days later till they were able to bring the internet back up. So, and it's owned by the Chinese government, so you know how they do. So there's been a upskilling battle with that.
Thank you for your work.
Thank you. Oh.
I have a quick question over
Yeah.
here. And again, apologize for perhaps my ignorance, but when you had said 7-Eleven, I will say I immediately was already correlating to our culture. 7-Eleven, 24/7, where you can get what you need and leave, and it's always open and never shuts down. It's so different to see the opposite of it being used in your poem, because what you spoke about was complete oppression.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking we're talking about the lights never turning off and us having to be able to get our ramens at 3 in the morning
Yeah.
and all that jazz. So to see it turn so quickly, I saw the turn immediately in aisle 4 that you mentioned there. But then it's also still relatable. So even then, I still thought we were talking about America.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things. The owls that I brought up, it just brought it with different perspectives because another thing too is when you hear Cuba, I know with Cuba they have this like romanticization with it, with the cars, and I know just people that just love the whole Castro thing because they thought he was just saving people's lives. But it's the complete opposite. It's the complete opposite, and it got everybody in the chokehold. I mean, the best analogy I could bring to you is like a beautiful prison, Alcatraz probably, because you got like a whole wall surrounding the island, and you can't go anywhere.
So you're using your poetry to explain the story of Cuba, but we can, if I was reading it in a book, let's say,
Yeah.
hopefully in the future, then it's also something relatable, similar to Plátano Power, similar to
Yeah, exactly,
Bilingual.
exactly.
Somehow we're relating, somehow we're feeling the oppression and we're using this as an outlet. At that moment, I thought, shoot, there is stuff like that happening here in America. Why aren't we raising our voice? But to see that you're speaking of Cuba,
Yeah.
it's like, how far do we turn a blind eye until we're there?
Yeah, so it's one of those things you got to just be aware and be cautious because it could happen to you.
And speak, because we can do that here.
And that's the wonderful thing. You know, with this country is interesting because I know we have our flaws. This country could be a bug out. It could bug you out. But the fact that I could come here and I could express politics, I could not like my president, put it in a song, put it in words, put it online, and I don't have to worry about the CIA knocking on my door. I can't do that in the other land. You know.
I want to go off of that because, and this is just a note, this is a library, one of the last democratic spaces. It's important because you are seeing a lot of banned books happening.
Yeah.
And this is where it starts. So these poems are what we want to hear from the community members, that whether it happened where they were coming from or where they're going, it can happen here too, because it's already happening in our democratic spaces.
Yeah.
So, just throwing that in there.
And one of the things before I get out of here, you know, one of the things that kind of like stings on my end is, you know, I remember being a kid, and when I was younger, a lot of my homeboys, my friends, they used to go like, you know, I would assume you guys, you know, do you guys go to DR? Have you guys gone to DR and see your parents, or I mean your grandparents and your cousins? And yes, that's dope. So I missed that part when I was a kid because a lot of my friends, DR, PR, they always used to go, you know, to their islands, you know, to get, como te digo, más conocimiento to their culture. And, you know, they got to see abuela cook for them and their cousins show them around their town or whatever the case may be. And the thing that's unfortunate about that system, you know, it robbed me out of that because I wasn't able to see my grandmother. My grandmother passed away 4 years ago. Couldn't go to the funeral. You know, my grandfather, he's not doing too well. He got grandkids that he never met before. You know, it's a good chance he might not see them. So, I mean, that's just our stories in our lives. So, I guess I leave this to say that just listen to and especially with the Cuban people, just listen to our story because it's a struggle. I know a lot of people, when they go there for the vacation, or go there for 3 weeks, and they're professing, they become the experts. Listen to the people that have been through it. Listen to the people that lived it, and even the generation among ourselves that's still going through it and still going through that sense of trauma, because I got cousins and nieces, and like I said, my grandma passed away and I couldn't even go to her funeral. So like I said, it's a never ending struggle, but just listen to our stories. Thank you.
Thank you, brother.
See you shining.
I'm from the city of promise, the birthplace of poets, Roberto and Robert, frosted in Proverbs. To quote Solomon, the mouth of a fool brings ruin near. So here's to Jay Atkinson, who babbled about that which he did not know, does not know, and will not know, because some things need to be experienced to be understood. Big up to what's good in the hood. Real journalists portray the truth with authenticity. Reporting live from the intersection of Esperanza and Hope Street, my folks be leading movements in the city of promise, the great city of Lawrence, where it's common to hear people say, I never knew a love like this. Gotta be something for me to write this. See, I am a voice in the wilderness too, opposing the view that my city is screwed. Media bias projected in news, but history's coming alive through the youth. Bridget Betances, Mass Youth of the Year. We breed the best and brightest around here. It's a habit in this habitat for humanity where we hold hands, balance the scales of depravity. Meet me at the center of gravity where promise awaits. Like a blind date, there's always hope that this will turn out well. And since damned is related to hell, there's no way in hell my city is damned. My city is jam-packed with immigrants that left everything in order to give everything. A recurrent history in these streets where residents pursue happiness like Will Smith. I know that didn't age well. Against all odds, battling customs, traditions, systems of oppression. An ongoing mission that's constantly evolving. The spirit of the city captured in a collective voice that cries out, we are Lawrence, the city of promise. So I wrote that, I think it was 2013. Creo que escribí eso en 20, el año 2013. Publicaron un artículo, they published an article titulado Ciudad de los Condenados, City of the Damned. How many of y'all remember that? We had a march in the city and everything. Let me ask you. Déjame preguntarle a ustedes. When you listen to a title of an article, City of the Damned, what comes to mind for you? What comes to mind for you when you hear that title, City of the Damned? ¿Qué viene a tu mente cuando leen o escuchan ese título, Ciudad de los Condenados? What comes to mind for you? Demons. What else? ¿Ah? Delincuentes. ¿Qué más? Hell. So y'all didn't state anything positive. No dijeron nada positivo. Right? And what positive can come from an article titled City of the Damned? ¿Qué es lo positivo que podemos esperar en un artículo titulado Ciudad de los Condenados? It makes me think about scripture. Me trae la escritura. It makes me think about Nazareth. ¿No? Dijeron lo mismo de Jesús. ¿Qué es lo bueno que puede venir de Nazaret? What good can come from Nazareth? And yet here we are. Pero aquí estamos, nosotros. Trayendo promesa, bringing promise. This is the Nazareth, Lawrence, that produces promise. Somos de una ciudad que produce promesa. So when people are speaking negatively about Lawrence, la gente están hablando negativamente de Lawrence, especialmente gente que no son de aquí, especially people who are not from here. We have a responsibility to respond. Tenemos que responderle a esa gente. Because we drive the narrative. It's our story. We drive the narrative. Nosotros manejamos el narrativo. It's our story, nuestra historia. And one of the ways you could do that is through writing. Una manera en la cual se puede hacer eso, escribiendo, hablando, compartiendo. Sentí esa responsabilidad. I felt that responsibility to write City of the Promise. Any questions about that? See. How do you feel?
Yeah, how do you think the community of Lawrence, like with their culture and background, how do we resonate with the American dream? Or how do we strive to achieve that American dream that is so sought after?
That's a great question. I'll answer a question with a question. Couple questions. Le voy a responder a su pregunta con algunas preguntas que yo tengo. ¿Qué es el sueño americano? What is the American dream? ¿Y quién es americano? And who's American? Who's American? I think that's a good starting place. Who is American? ¿Quién es americano? Al responder a esa pregunta, tome su tiempo y piénsalo bien. Take your time and think about it well. We think about the notion of who is American. What are we talking about? Invisible borders? We talking about North Americans, we talking about South Americans, about the Caribbean. Who's American? ¿Quién es americano? And what's this dream? Is the dream about money and having money? Es el sueño tener dinero. Is the dream about being free? Es el sueño tener libertad. How are we defining freedom? I know people that have a lot of money, they're not free. Conozco mucha gente que tiene dinero y no son libres. So what's the American dream? ¿Qué es el sueño americano? I can't answer for everybody, right? No, yo no puedo responderle a esa pregunta por todo el mundo. But for me, to answer your question more acutely, the American dream should be for us to love our neighbors. That should be the American dream. That we love God and love our neighbors. Love and serve our neighbors. That should be the American dream. If we would all love God, love our neighbors, if we would love each other more, I think we would all be more free. Si nos dedicamos a amarnos más uno al otro, nuestros vecinos, seríamos más libres. Digo yo. Because we would stop focusing on ourselves and we would focus on others. Menos enfoque en sí mismo y un enfoque en servir a los otros. We would be united. Seríamos unidos. Un buen sueño, digo yo. I think that's a good dream for Americans. Great question. You got a lot of good questions. You were very, very inquisitive and probably very bright. I feel you have a lot to offer this world. Tiene mucho ofrecerle a este mundo. Time check.
6:27.
Okay. ¿Tienen alguna pregunta más antes de la próxima parte? Any other questions before our next part? Okay. So, now we get into the theme of grief. Ahora vamos a hablar del dolor. Grief, loss. And I think it's important to get into this, especially as a man. I find it important these days as a man and as a father. I have 3 kids. Lo encuentro importante hablar de esto como un hombre y padre. Tengo 3 hijos, 8, 5, 2 años. Para muchos de nosotros, los hombres, es difícil expresarnos. For many of us men, it's difficult to express ourselves, a compartir nuestras emociones, to share our emotions. And when you don't share, cuando uno no comparte sus emociones, when you don't share your emotions, you just hold it and hold it and hold it. Uno lo aguanta y lo aguanta y lo aguanta, pero en algún momento explota. And at some moment it explodes. So, part of what I try to do with my writing, una cosa de lo que yo trato de hacer con mis palabras, en yo escribir, con mi poesía, es servir como ejemplo de que sí podemos hablar de nuestras emociones. Try to serve as an example of, yeah, we could talk about our emotions, even when it's hard, aún siendo difícil. So, Lamar, mi hermano, mi amigo Lamar va a compartir. Lamar is going to share. Después de eso, yo voy a compartir. After that, I'll share, and then we'll have a conversation.
Yeah, thank you. Hey.
Hey.
No, we're gonna try this again. Hey.
Hey.
Y'all don't know me. Hey. Hey. All right, that's what I'm talking about. All right. Hi. All right. Just by a show of hands, if you're comfortable, have you ever lost somebody really close to you? Close your eyes for a sec. Try it. Close your eyes. And I want you to picture the happiest moment and the saddest moment. Go. Who smiled at the happy? Who feels a little sad? Who's used to that range of emotions? Who kept it right here and didn't tell anybody about it and fought it and swallowed it and had somebody look you square in the face and be like, you good? You all right? It's all good. This past December, I lost my wife of 10 years to cancer. I haven't written in how long, Rob?
5 years.
Yeah. Because dads get busy, right? Like we do stuff, right? This is one of the first things that I wrote. And it says, I need a good cry. I need a good cry. Bawling my eyes out. Wailing to the heavens so my angel can hear me sobbing my sorrows away. Hey, yo, this sucks. I've never been a planner, an organizer. My sense of time is non-existent, and the burden of my shortcomings is weighing me down like the tropical humidity during hurricane season. I need a good cry. Like punch the concrete until my hands bleed. Everything is broken, including my self-esteem. I dream of my deceased wife and I still don't know what it means. Are you whispering, I told you so's in the breeze? Am I cursed to be fearful of this God-forsaken disease? It took you away from me, so is it passed along in your genes? I whisper your name in the mirror, hoping they're closer than it appears to be. I need a good cry. So my kids can see I'm strong. Dad has everything together. Dad is doing the right thing. Dad is doing dad things, whatever that might mean. I wish I had the words to bring comfort after the commas, the pause and breaks in the sentences I speak, because my ADHD means my mind moves faster than my words, so it's just how I think or do. The words come first, thoughts after. Reactionary behavior, because being proactive requires too much focus. I need a good cry to humble me more than life already has. To say I'm a good dad really means I'm skilled at navigating the good as well as the bad for their sake. I beat myself up a lot. And I'm trying to stop it, but this is hard. I feel like a failure when success stares me in the face, but I keep saying it's not good enough. I need a good cry and some sleep and my kids and my wife and salsa lessons and a massage and a podium to scream to the heavens. I just want an opportunity to not feel so needy, but just to be needed. Dad life. Questions? Yes.
So, if some of you don't know, November is Children and Teen Grief Awareness Month. And as a board director, I spend a lot of these meetings with other board members and how we try to
bring these conversations to the children that are coping with the loss of a parent, a loved one, a caregiver. So here in your poem, now I know where the space is that we need to check in on the dad or the grieving mother so that the kids can grieve. And that's important because they need to not grieve alone. And that's the process that I think that you guys should share, because some people might be carrying it inside the chest, like we say, and then you ask them how they're doing, and they just answer vet. That's all they have to say.
Yep.
But if they know they have someone to agree with, then that helps. One of the things you mentioned in your poem with a little bit of wittiness, it's like salsa classes, how we try to find things in the present that you would like to do with the person that was taken away. Do you see yourself going back and maybe doing those salsa classes and getting that massage to help with that health healing?
The spaces that we have to get to when things life-altering happen, right? Because we can't control this. We control the reactions to it. Would you all agree? Right? You guys are still students. You don't got to raise your hand. But I can guarantee you, there is somebody who may be involved that you're not a fan of, that you may not be learning from the way that you learn. I told that to my 11-year-old. You don't have to like everybody. Know how to deal with them differently. You don't have to like everything that happens to you. Learn how to navigate it differently, right? And that takes practice. And because practice is just one of those things that, I got to do it. You get in the gym, I got to do it. I work out, I got to do it. Life doesn't stop until you have it in your head that everything you want to do, you just want to get better at it. You think about something that you're good at, get better at it, right? You have no choice but to live life, so get better at it. Whatever that means for you. For me, that's eventually taking salsa lessons. I can't dance salsa. I'm nasty at bachata, though. Any other questions? Any other comments? Anything? Okay.
Well, thanks for sharing.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Nice to see you. All right. This one is kind of a continuation. This might have been the second one in this series, because my goal is to show the other side, right? So these might be a little deep, bear with me, but there's another side to it, all right? I create chaos. I'm an avalanche of emotions and a torrential downpour of consequences. I'm the disaster and the disappointment. The upheaval of peace and the resentment I harbor is a cruise ship-sized situation that docks daily when I go to sleep. I know this sounds like I'm wallowing in self-pity and self-loathing and using my selfishness as a shield when I should have it as a sword. But I'm tired. I'm tired of failing at life, even though the sweet scent of success oozes out of my pores and mixes with my pheromones. It's like my favorite cologne to wear, but I remember it made you nauseous because of the chemo. And now I'm emo. Because life is lifing and it's lifing without you here, so emotionally I'm deceased. But why do I feel everything around me is caving in? I'm slipping into the depression again. I feel it. I smell it. I taste it with my coffee and it's bitter. I wish I was better at being butter and spread on bread, but as smooth as things may seem, I'm burnt toast instead. Why'd you have to die? Maybe it was meant to teach me a lesson that I really am codependent and I lie to myself about being a dad who does it all. Babe, you would have looked me square in the eye and said, you better get it together and do what you got to do. And the only thing I can think of right now is, how do I exist? I wish I could thrive. I wish I had peace inside. I wish I had a better sense of some of that drive that you had that kept it all together. You called me lazy once, and I hated it. Because I'm the one living this life, and you can't be lazy if you're always exhausted. But I am chaos. I lack structure. My boundaries fluctuate like high and low tides, and it seems the seas burst at the seams of my dreams with you in it. Overflowing emotions, incapacitated by needing and wanting to be still and keeping it moving at the same time. Help. Thank you. By a show of hands, who writes? Okay. If you have an outlet that is beneficial to you, is not a detriment to anybody else, use it, make it grow, water it, make sure it's planted firmly, surround yourself with good nutrients, right? Are you friends with the person sitting next to you? Right? Everybody cool, right? Right? Okay. Every day that you have, live it as it's intended. And the cool part is, y'all are still young enough not even to know what that means yet. For this side of the room, guess what? We got a lot more experience, right? So we have a responsibility to lead by example. But I'll tell you guys this, I have 2 kids. My son is 7, my daughter's 11, okay? For those of you who have met my daughter, right, who know my daughter, she's like fire. Sometimes to the point where she needs to like direct it at everybody else but me, right? But I never want her to lose that. It's all about directing it, right? So whatever somebody might criticize you for, whatever somebody might say you got to change, whatever that little voice in the back of your head tells you, right? That it says that it's not good enough, change it. Because that's your voice. You control the narrative up in here. To surround yourself with people that are going to consider you the right way, watch those flowers sprout up. That's all I got. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing, Lamar. So I'm going to share this piece in English. Where's my book? Who took my book? I'm just kidding. I put it over here. It was me. And then I'll share it in Spanish. Esto lo voy a compartir en inglés, después en español. Después de eso, si tienen preguntas, comentarios, podemos hablar y ahí vamos a terminar. So I'll share this in English, then Spanish, and I'll take any questions, comments, and from there we'll wrap up. His Faith, dedicated to Cecilio Germán. Up early with the sun, knees sore from prayer, then phone calls and home visits to neighbors. Amidst his own pain, dialysis 3 times a week, weakened body needing rest, shivers, colds, coughs, fever, pain. Paid their rents, funded their groceries until they stood on their own 2 feet. He understood when you arrive in the USA, ain't no boots, ain't no straps. Burdens of others strapped on his back, he carried a cross. Dwelling under the shadow of the Almighty, always believing and trusting in the Lord. These were his words on the tip of his tongue, and encouragement to others. My father pastored a herd of men that were like fatherless children along the righteous path through tranquility, temptation, and turbulence, reprimanded when necessary, never abandoned, rather reminded, me, you, them, the Lord awaits you. Su fe, dedicado a Cecilio Germán. Levantado temprano con el sol, rodillas adoloridas por orar, luego llamadas telefónicas y visitas a casas de los vecinos. En medio de su propio dolor, diálisis 3 veces a la semana, cuerpo debilitado, necesitando descansar, escalofríos, resfriados, fiebre, tos, dolor. Pagó sus alquileres, financió sus compras hasta que se pararon sobre sus propios pies. Él entendió: cuando uno llega a los Estados Unidos, no hay botas, no hay correas, cargas de otros atadas a su espalda. Llevó la cruz. Morando bajo la sombra del Omnipotente, siempre creyendo y confiando en el Señor. Estos fueron sus palabras en la punta de su lengua. Un estímulo para los demás. Mi padre pastoreó una manada de hombres que eran como niños sin padre por el camino correcto. A través de la tranquilidad, la tentación y la turbulencia, reprendió cuando fue necesario. Nunca abandonados, más bien recordados. Yo, tú, ellos, el Señor te espera. Preguntas, questions, comentarios, comments.
I do want to say thank you for sharing, and thank you for inspiring. And it's never easy to be, what's the word? Help me out.
Vulnerable.
It's difficult to be vulnerable. And I speak for myself. So I just want to say, it's empowering. I feel like when you allow yourself to, when you expose yourself, it allows others, to do the same. It gives people permission to do that. So, you can.
Thank you. Thank you.
I have a question. I guess I always have a question. I'm where I am. Can you express, after hearing a lot of the deepness that kind of came into this room right now, how important it is to equally write in those good moments as much as those bad moments, and how equally right it is and important to write in those angry moments as much as those happy moments?
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Life, life should have balance. En la vida debemos mantener un balance. And so, el contenido en mi libro no solamente el contenido que le hace a uno llorar o expresando frustración. It's not just about, whatever, like teary moments or frustrations. Like there's also light moments, but, we only have so much time. Cuando solo tenemos tan poco tiempo, you got to make decisions. Hay que determinar qué es lo que es que uno va a compartir. But I have a poem. I have poems that are silly. I have poems. I have poems that express happiness. So yes, it's important. Creo que es muy importante escribir no solamente en momentos en lo cual nos sentimos mal, pero sí, it's important to also write in joyous moments. Es importante que estamos escribiendo en momentos de gozo, de alegría, all of it, because como humanos, as human beings, lo pasamos por todo, right? We go through it all, so we should capture all of it. Thank you for the question. Brother.
When you have specific words, right, that hold a little bit more weight than others as you're writing, right, is that what helps you continue in that same vein of your thought? Because as another writer, I see it can go any way that we want, right? But there were certain pinpoints as you're writing that will say, I'm going to stay right here. I'm going to stay here. Now's the time to change. Do you see that often in your writing?
I think with my process, it depends what I'm writing about. Con mi proceso depende de mi enfoque, depende si yo estoy... Sometimes I have something and I need to give it emphasis. Algunas veces tengo una palabra y le quiero dar énfasis. O hay una frase, or there's a phrase that I want to give emphasis. So I might start with the phrase and I might end with the phrase. Quizá comienzo con esa frase y termino con esa frase. Or quizá, maybe I use that word, like City of Promise. I sprinkled the word promise in a few different places. In City of Promise, usé esa palabra promesa, promesa, right? Porque quiero que los que están leyendo mis palabras o escuchando salgan con ese mensaje que somos de una ciudad de promesa. So, en mi proceso, depende de lo que yo quiero comunicar. It depends on what I'm trying to communicate. And if I feel like I want to extend, or if I'm like, no, esto lo voy a comunicar, lo voy a hacer de una vez, and it's just going to be short, it's going to be brief, then ain't going to be none of that. I'm just going to 3 lines, 6 lines, y ya. 3 líneas, 6 líneas, y ya. Pero si siento que sí tengo espacio y voy a extender la vida de mi poema, vamos a decir, if I'm going to extend the life of the poem, then I might I might do emphasis and repetition. Énfasis y repetición con una palabra o una frase.
The second part to that question is, and the reason why I asked, is just to help anybody who might think about or be inspired by it. There's a little insight into what that process looks like.
So are you saying, sorry, what the second part of the question is what?
The second part was for the group. Anyone who can have a little insight into what that process is
Yeah.
right? Can be helpful.
Okay. All right. Por ejemplo, for example, René Salazar me preguntó si yo quería contribuir a su libro. He asked me if I wanted to contribute to his book. No problem. Okay, cool. I think, all right, what do I want to talk about? Okay. I want to talk about something that I like. Quiero hablar de algo que me gusta. Bueno. Agua de coco. Love coconut water. So, pero I think about coconut water, I think about República Dominicana. Pienso en los cocoteros. Yeah, I think, I think about, I don't even know how you say that in English, but the coconut man. Pienso en un machete. Pienso en el malecón. Entonces, voy usando esos detalles. Like I take those details and I'm like, I want to read something that makes me feel like I'm drinking coconut water in Santo Domingo. All right, so en el proceso mío estoy pensando, bueno, quiero escribir algo que al leerlo me va a hacer sentir como si estoy bebiendo agua de coco en Santo Domingo, pasando por el malecón. So, pienso en esos detalles. I think about those details. I'll look at pictures. I'll look at video. Me pongo a revisar fotos, videos, para sacar detalles y usar mis palabras para pintar ese escenario. Use my words to paint that scene of, agua de coco. And like, well, what is it? ¿Qué de agua de coco? Like, how does it make me feel? What do I see? Right? Ay, coco verde. Yo he tratado de abrir pero yo no soy de allá, yo soy de Loren, yo no vivo pelando coco. Pero aprecio, right? Like I appreciate like the person that does it, sets it up so I could drink it. I appreciate the process. Puedo apreciar el proceso y lo que está haciendo el cocotero para yo disfrutar de mi agua de coco. And so, en un sentido, in a sense, I'm also honoring the cocotero. En un sentido también estoy demostrando honor for the coconut man. Yeah. Thank you.
Roberto, lo que voy a expresar ahora es mi juicio sobre tu trabajo. Me he dado cuenta que tú eres un poeta que mezcla muchas imágenes. Eres como pintor de muchos colores, con una buena paleta. Tus temas van desde asuntos que tienen que ver con la identidad, con asuntos que tienen que ver con la integración social que necesitamos en este conglomerado para llevarnos bien, para crecer, para mejorar, que es lo que finalmente necesitamos. Pero también tienen como una vena existencial que te haces comunicar con una situación que te haya pasado en tu vida o con alguien que te haya servido de guía en tu vida, como fue tu padre, de quien he tenido muy buenas referencias aquí. Te felicito por ser un poeta tan diverso. Puedes mezclar muchísimos temas, muchísimos tópicos, llevarlos quizás en un momento a un estilo callejero, como un estilo rapeado, ¿no? Pero también, en cierta forma, también utilizas terminología, vamos a decir, formal, y quizás con una rima libre a veces, pero a veces con una rima más rígida. Pero sinceramente me ha dejado impresionado con tu trabajo.
Gracias,
Te
gracias.
exhorto a que sigas trabajando. Y también felicito a las personas que hayan tenido que ver con traerte aquí a esta ciudad y poder compartir.
Gracias.
Gracias.
Gracias. No, sí, gracias por ese comentario, por sus palabras. En verdad, le doy gracias al Señor por esta oportunidad para estar aquí en Lawrence, en mi ciudad, compartiendo con mi gente. Gracias a tía Nisha Torres por traerme, a Genao Abreu, al alcalde Brian de Peña por el apoyo y el equipo aquí. ¿Qué te digo? El Señor me ha dado un talento y también me ha abrido muchas puertas. Y siento que en hacer esto, lo más importante es poder utilizar este talento para impactar a la gente en una manera positiva, sea este grupo o sea el grupo de la mañana en St. John's Prep. Al final del día, todos tenemos necesidades y hay un mensaje para todos. Y quiero ser utilizado para la honra y gloria de mi Señor. Y por tal razón sigo haciendo lo que hago. Y caminando por las puertas que el Señor me abre. Y gracias a Dios, esta puerta me lo abrió y vuelvo el 30 de noviembre para presentar en la Lawrence High School. Y lo estoy anticipando. Lawrence siempre me lo llevo en mi corazón, como ya he compartido. Pero también cuando hago esto, espero que estoy sembrando y quiero ver ese fruto. Yo sé que hay mucho talento aquí, sé que esta juventud, ellos también van a tener su momento, sea ahora, sea ahorita, o sea después, y no tiene que ser como poeta, escritor, hay diversos talentos, pero lo veo y lo siento, y como dije, esa jovencita ahí atrás, Emma, yo le quiero regalar este libro porque veo su potencial. Yes, you. Yes, you. Come, see me afterwards. See me afterwards. Así que nada, le doy gracias a ustedes por estar presentes, por su apoyo. Y quiero respetar el tiempo porque ya creo que quizás nos hemos pasado por 2 o 3 minutos, pero nada, somos dominicanos.
Eso sí, si estamos tarde, por lo menos nos quedamos hasta el cerrar. Quiero darte las gracias, claro, por tocar tantos temas tan importantes para la biblioteca pública. I want to give you the thanks for coming today and touching on so many important themes, especially in our library. I want to thank all of you, especially our youth, to being patient, to being listening, to being attentive, to asking questions, and hopefully taking some things away. Just like he said, he's going to continue to work on spreading his message. Él va a continuar de regar el mensaje que tiene en sus poemas, en sus historias, en lo que ha vivido. One of the things that we have here is our YouTube channel, and we also have our Spotify and podcast. You can find us where we will continue to play this message. So please share it amongst your colleagues or your friends that couldn't be here. If you know some of the poems touch on those topics of grief and you know you want to share it with someone, those topics and those Plátano Power, share it along and we'll be able to hopefully see you guys all on our social media platform and follow us on lawrencepl.org. So as I did my commercial
just
pieces.
a thank you to Cuba,
Yes,
to
please.
Michael Cuba Reyes, to Lamar McLaughlin
Guys,
for
come
their
on up here,
contribution.
please. I think today we all leave inspired. I want to thank our literacy coordinator, Tanisha. Tanisha, stand on up
Yes.
for putting this all together. Our literacy speaker series has been phenomenally attended, and most importantly, we want to continue to have these tough topic conversations in our library doors, something along with multicultural classroom, and of course, more partnerships moving forward with the rest of the team today. So thank you so much on behalf of Lawrence Public Library. Please stay. There's some cookies, some water. Guys, get some sugar in you. There's a lot out there, and some water, and we'll be good to go. You guys have a wonderful evening.
Good job, man.
Hey, man.